The massive hall was filled with strange creatures from across the galaxy. Some looked like walking trees with glowing leaves. Others were made of purple gas that shifted and moved like smoke. There were beings that looked like giant lizards with golden scales, and creatures that seemed to be made of living crystal that sang when they moved. Ambassador Dong Ho walked slowly toward the center of the hall. His heart was beating fast, but he kept his face calm. Behind him walked Dr. He Jin, carrying a metal case full of data, and Colonel Tae Woo, whose military uniform looked simple compared to the fancy robes and armor of the alien beings around them. The three humans looked very small in the huge chamber. The ceiling was so high that clouds actually formed near the top. Giant windows showed the stars outside, reminding everyone that this space station was floating in the middle of nowhere, far from any planet. Dong Ho had practiced his speech many times during their long trip here. 3 months in hyperspace had given him plenty of time to think about what he would say. But now, surrounded by beings that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, his words felt weak and small. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Dong Ho began, his voice echoing in the vast space. We come from Earth with an urgent message. Our scientists have found something terrible moving toward our galaxy. A sound like laughter filled the air, but it was not friendly laughter. It came from High Counselor Vexitar, a being made of purple mist that floated above a golden throne. When Vexitar spoke, the words came from a machine because humans could not understand the sounds he actually made. Oh, the humans are scared again, Vexitar said, his voice dripping with mockery. Tell me, little Earthman, what monster is coming to eat us all this time? More laughter came from around the hall. Dong Ho felt his face get hot with anger, but he forced himself to stay calm. Dr. Hyojin stepped forward and opened her metal case. A hologram appeared in the air above it, showing images that made several alien beings stop laughing. The hologram showed dead worlds floating in space, stars that had gone dark, and something else. A wall of darkness that seemed to eat light itself, moving slowly but steadily through space, leaving nothing behind. This is real, Dr. Hyojin said firmly. We have been watching this phenomenon for 47 years. It has already destroyed 3 star systems in the nearby Andromeda galaxy. Our calculations show it will reach the edge of our galaxy in 18 months. A creature that looked like a giant snake with arms slithered forward. This was Sovereign Kethmos, ruler of the Reptilian Empire. His yellow eyes looked at the hologram with boredom. Even if this thing exists, Kethmos hissed, which I doubt the Council's defenses could stop anything. We have protected this galaxy for 10,000 years. What could some humans who have only been in space for 200 years possibly teach us about galactic threats? Colonel Tae Woo stepped forward. His voice was steady and professional. We offer our help. Humanity has learned to fight enemies that are stronger than us. We know how to adapt quickly. Our factories can build weapons and ships faster than any other species. We can help you prepare for this threat. This caused even more laughter. A being made of singing crystal chimed in with sounds like bells. Help from humans? What could you possibly do that we cannot do better? You have not even learned how to turn energy into matter. You still use metal ships and chemical rockets for some of your travel. Bora, the youngest member of the human team, felt her hands make fists. She was only 26 years old, but she had studied every alien species in the galaxy. She knew how powerful they were, but she also knew they had not fought a real war in hundreds of years. They had grown lazy and proud. Your species, continued the crystal being, whose name was Counselor Lethai, has been spacefaring for such a short time. We were building empires when your people were still living in caves. Return to your little blue planet and leave the important work to those who understand it. Dr. Hyojin tried one more time. She showed more images, readings from their most powerful telescopes, mathematical calculations that proved the threat was real, and computer models that showed what would happen when the dark phenomenon reached inhabited worlds. Please, she said, just look at our data. We are not asking you to believe us blindly. We are asking you to check our facts. Send your own ships to investigate. You have 18 months to prepare. High Counselor Vexitar's purple mist swirled angrily. We have wasted enough time on human fears. The session is ended. Security, escort our guests back to their ship. As the humans were led out of the chamber, most of the alien beings had already stopped paying attention. They were talking about other things, trade agreements, territory disputes, cultural exchanges. The warning from Earth was forgotten before the humans had even left the building, but not everyone ignored them. As they walked through the long corridors toward their ship, a plant-like being approached them quietly. Her name was Nixara, and she worked as a junior assistant for the Botanical Consortium. Her voice was like wind through leaves. "Ambassador," she whispered, making sure no one else could hear, "some of us listened to your words. Not all of the younger species agree with the Council's decision. We remember what it was like to be dismissed and ignored." Dong Ho looked at her with surprise. "You believe us?" "I believe that fear can sometimes see things that pride cannot," Nixara replied. "If you are right about this threat, what will you do?" "We will prepare," Colonel Taewoo said simply. "With or without the Council's help, humanity will get ready for what is coming." Nixara nodded slowly. "Then I hope you are wrong about the danger. But if you are right, I hope you are also ready." The humans walked the rest of the way to their ship in silence. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued their meeting, discussing laws about trade taxes and regulations for mining asteroids. The most important warning in galactic history had been ignored, dismissed as the fears of a primitive species. As their small ship pulled away from the massive space station, Dr. Hagen looked back at the structure through a window. It was beautiful, covered in lights and graceful curves that showed the advanced technology of the alien civilizations. "They will regret this," she said quietly. Dong Ho nodded. "Yes, they will. But by then it might be too late for regrets." The ship turned toward Earth, carrying the three humans back to a world that would now have to prepare for the end of everything, completely alone. Admiral So Young stood in the center of Earth's Deep Space Command, watching dozens of screens that showed the galaxy burning. 15 months had passed since the Galactic Council had laughed at humanity's warning. Now those same alien worlds were sending desperate calls for help. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Minho from his station. His young face was pale with worry. "We're getting more distress signals from the outer rim. The Catherian homeworld went silent 20 minutes ago. That's the 15th planet to go dark this week." So Young walked over to the main display where Engineer Yuri was updating the tactical map. Red zones showed where entire star systems had vanished. The red was spreading faster each day, like a disease eating away at the galaxy. "How long until it reaches the core worlds?" So Young asked. Yuri's fingers moved quickly over her controls, updating the calculations. "At this speed, 8 months. Maybe less. It's moving much faster than we predicted." The irony was not lost on anyone in the command center. While the proud alien civilizations had ignored Earth's warning, humanity had spent every day of the last 15 months preparing. Every human factory worked day and night. Every colony sent resources to build weapons and ships. They had seen this coming and had done something about it. The main screen flickered as an urgent message came through. It was from the Zentorian Empire, the strongest military force in the galaxy. Admiral So Young had met their commanders before, arrogant beings who thought their technology made them unbeatable. The message was chaos. Zentorian officers were screaming orders in their musical language while explosions lit up the background. Their famous defensive grid, which they claimed could stop any attack in the universe, was falling apart. "This is Fleet Commander Zelthara of the Zentorian Defense Force," the alien's voice was filled with panic. "Our entire outer fleet is gone. The defensive grid is failing. Whatever this thing is, our weapons cannot touch it. We need immediate assistance. Please, anyone who can hear this message, we surrender our pride. Help us." Minho looked up from his station with amazement. "Admiral, the Zentorians are asking for help. They've never asked anyone for help before." "Patch me through to President Jinwoo on Luna City," So Young ordered. The president's face appeared on a private screen. Behind him, So Young could see the busy halls of the lunar government complex where Earth's leaders were making decisions that would affect the future of human civilization. "Mr. President, you've seen the reports. The alien civilizations are falling faster than we expected. They're asking for our help now." President Jinwoo looked tired. The weight of leading humanity through this crisis was showing on his face. "What's our status on Project Prometheus?" So Young felt a moment of pride. Project Prometheus was humanity's secret weapon, developed in the months after the Council had dismissed their warning. Dr. Sungmin's team has finished the quantum disruption technology. We have 200 ships equipped and ready. Our crews have been training on the new weapons for months. "And the cost?" So Young's expression became serious. "Hi, sir. The quantum disruption weapons require enormous amounts of energy. Each shot could burn out a ship's power system, and we still don't know if they'll actually work against these entities. The president was quiet for a moment. Admiral, I'm getting reports that some of the alien species are offering to make humanity the dominant galactic power if we save them. They're offering us their technology, their worlds, everything. Before So Young could answer, Tactical Officer Wu Jin called out urgently, Admiral, priority alert from the Galactic Council emergency frequency. They're broadcasting on all channels. The main screen changed to show the remnants of the Galactic Council. High Counselor Vextar's purple mist had faded to almost nothing. The proud sovereign Kethmos looked broken and defeated. Other council members who had once ruled the galaxy with absolute authority now huddled together in what looked like an emergency bunker. People of the galaxy. Vextar's voice was weak and desperate. This is an official surrender message from the Galactic Council. We were wrong about the threat from the void. Our worlds are dying. Our fleets are destroyed. We formally request immediate assistance from any species capable of fighting these entities. The message continued, but So Young had heard enough. She turned to address everyone in the command center. Her voice was strong and clear. Attention all personnel. For 15 months we warned them. For 15 months they mocked us and called us primitive. They said we were too young and too scared to understand real threats. Now their worlds are burning while our children are safe because we listened to our own scientists. She paused, looking at the faces of the men and women who had worked tirelessly to prepare humanity for this moment. These were people from every human world, engineers from Mars, pilots from the asteroid colonies, scientists from the research stations orbiting Jupiter. But we are not them. We do not abandon people who need help, even people who treated us badly. We are human, and that means something. All stations prepare for Operation Redemption. The command center exploded into activity. Officers began sending messages to human fleets across the solar system. Engineers started final checks on the experimental weapons. Communications specialists reached out to human colonies to coordinate the largest military operation in Earth's history. Dr. He Jin, who had been part of the original team that warned the Council, appeared on screen from the research station where she had been working on anti-void weapons. Admiral, she said, our analysis of the void entities shows they exist partially in our dimension and partially in others. That's why conventional weapons can't hurt them. But our quantum disruptors should be able to force them completely into normal space where they can be fought. Should be able to? So Young asked. Dr. He Jin's expression was honest. We've only been able to test the weapons on small void fragments. We don't know what will happen when we face the main force. But it's the best chance we have. Across human space, the response was immediate. From the shipyards of Earth to the mining colonies of the outer planets, humanity began moving. Merchant ships were converted to carry weapons. Civilian pilots volunteered for military service. Families said goodbye to loved ones who might never return. Captain Jae Sung, commander of the new battleship New Seoul, received his orders while his ship was still being loaded with supplies. His crew was young but determined. Many of them had never fought in a real battle, but they had trained for this moment their entire careers. Captain, his navigator Da-un reported, we've received fleet coordination data. We're part of Battle Group 7, assigned to protect the refugee convoys. Jae-sung looked at the tactical displays showing the scope of their mission. 500 human ships would face an enemy that had destroyed civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Weapons Officer Hyun-woo, he ordered, run final diagnostics on the quantum disruption systems. Science Officer HFY, I want constant monitoring of dimensional readings. If we're going to save the galaxy, we need to understand exactly what we're fighting. As the human fleet prepared to launch, Admiral So Young stood alone for a moment, looking out at Earth through the command center's main window. The blue and white planet looked peaceful from space, but she knew that billions of people were watching and waiting to see if humanity could succeed where the mighty alien empires had failed. Admiral, Minho called softly, all ships report ready for departure. So Young nodded and returned to her position. All ships, this is Admiral So Young. Today we go to war not for conquest or glory, but to protect life itself. The galaxy may have dismissed us as young and weak, but they're about to learn what human determination really means. Operation Redemption is now active. All ships begin hyperspace jump. The largest human fleet in history disappeared into hyperspace. racing toward a battle that would decide the fate of every living thing in the galaxy. Captain Jae-sung had never seen so many human ships in one place. 500 vessels floated in formation at the edge of the destruction zone, their hulls gleaming with new armor and weapons that had been built in secret over the past 15 months. The fleet stretched as far as the eye could see, from massive battleships to quick scout vessels. His own ship, the New Soul, was one of the newest and most advanced. Its hull was covered with experimental quantum armor that Dr. Sungmin's team had developed specifically to fight the void entities. Inside, his young crew worked at stations filled with technology that most of the galaxy had never seen before. "Captain," reported Navigator Da-Yun, pointing at her screens, "we're receiving a transmission from the Sanctuary system. It's what's left of the Galactic Council. Put it on the main viewer," Jae-sung ordered. The screen flickered to life, showing a scene that would have been unthinkable just 2 years ago. The beings who had once ruled the galaxy with absolute power were now huddled in what looked like an emergency shelter. High Counselor Vextar's purple mist was barely visible, weak and fading. Sovereign Kethmos, who had been so proud of his reptilian empire's military might, looked broken and desperate. "Humans." Vextar's voice came through the translation system, but it was quiet and humble now. We made a terrible mistake. We should have listened to your warnings. The entities that are destroying our worlds are unlike anything we have ever encountered. Our most powerful weapons pass right through them as if they don't exist. Our energy shields mean nothing to them." Science Officer HFY leaned forward in her seat, studying the readings from the Council's shelter. "Captain, I'm detecting massive dimensional distortions around their position. Whatever these void entities are, they're affecting the basic structure of space itself." A new voice came from the transmission. It was Nixara, the plant-like being who had quietly supported the humans during their original warning to the Council. She looked different now. Her once bright leaves were wilted and her movements seemed weak. "Captain Jae-sung," she said, recognizing him from the intelligence files the humans had shared. "We have learned more about our enemy in these past weeks of fighting and running. The entities, we call them devourers, they don't just destroy matter and energy. They consume the fundamental forces that hold reality together." Weapons Officer Hyun-woo, who had spent months studying the theoretical physics behind their new weapons, looked up with interest. "That explains why conventional attacks don't work. They exist partially in our dimension and partially in others that we can't see or understand." "Exactly," Nixara continued. "But your species has always approached problems differently than ours. Where we have tried to use brute force, you have looked for clever solutions. Do you truly have a way to fight them?" Captain Jae-sung exchanged looks with his senior officers. They had indeed developed something, but it was untested in real combat and extremely dangerous to use. "We have a plan," Jae-sung said carefully. "Our scientists have created weapons that can disrupt the quantum boundaries between dimensions. This should force the Devourers into normal space where conventional weapons can hurt them, but it requires precise timing and coordination." The reptilian sovereign Kethmos spoke up, his voice filled with desperation. "What do you need from us? Our remaining ships? Our technology? We will give you anything." "We need you to follow our orders," Jae-sung replied firmly. "This battle will be unlike anything any of our species have fought before. There can be only one command structure, one plan, one chance to get it right." The silence that followed this statement was heavy. For thousands of years, these alien civilizations had never accepted leadership from anyone else. They had always been the ones giving orders, the ones making decisions for the galaxy. Finally, High Counselor Vextar spoke. "We place our species' survival in human hands, Captain. Command us." The transmission ended, leaving Jae-sung and his crew alone on the bridge to contemplate what they had just heard. The most powerful beings in the galaxy had just asked humanity to lead them. "Captain," Da-Un said quietly, "I'm reading massive energy signatures approaching from the void zone. The Devourers are coming." Jae-sung activated the fleet communication system. His voice would now be heard on every human ship and every surviving alien vessel. "All ships, this is Captain Jae-sung of the New Soul. In a few hours, we will face an enemy that has destroyed civilizations spanning thousands of years. They think we are just another species to be consumed. They are about to learn they are wrong." He paused, looking around his bridge at the young faces of his crew. Da-Yun was 25 and had never been in a real battle. Hyun-woo was 27 and had spent his entire career developing weapons he hoped would never be used. HFY was 26 and understood physics that most alien species hadn't discovered in their thousands of years of existence. "We are human," Jae-sung continued. "We are the species that was told we were too young, too primitive, too weak to matter. But we are also the species that prepared for this day, while others ignored the warnings. We are the species that finds a way to win when winning seems impossible." On the tactical display, the approaching void entities appeared as massive distortions in space itself. They were enormous, some larger than entire space stations, and they moved with terrifying purpose. "All human vessels, implement formation Echo," Jae-sung ordered. "Alien allies, form defensive screens around our quantum disruptor ships. Remember? Once we force the Devourers into normal space, you'll have a very short window to destroy them before they adapt." Admiral So-young's voice came through from the fleet command ship. "Captain Jae-sung, you have the lead. All ships are under your tactical command." The weight of that responsibility settled on Jae-sung's shoulders. 500 human ships plus the remnants of a dozen alien civilizations were now following his orders. The survival of every living thing in the galaxy might depend on decisions made by a 28-year-old human from a planet that had only been spacefaring for 2 centuries. "Weapons Officer Hyun-woo," Jae-sung said, his voice steady despite the enormous pressure. "Charge all quantum disruptor arrays to full power." "Science Officer HFY, begin monitoring dimensional stability. Navigator Dayun, plot an intercept course with the lead Devourer." Around the new Sol, the human fleet moved into attack formation. Each ship carried weapons that existed because humanity had refused to accept that the threat was impossible to fight. Each crew member was there because their species had chosen to prepare for disaster, while others had chosen to ignore it. "Captain," HFY reported, "I'm detecting reality distortions increasing as the Devourers approach. Space itself is becoming unstable around them." "That's what we expected," Jae-sung replied. "The more they distort reality, the more vulnerable they become to our dimensional weapons." All ships prepare for combat. The Devourers emerged from the void zone like nightmares made real. They were vast creatures that seemed to exist in too many dimensions at once, their forms constantly shifting and changing as they moved through space. Where they passed, stars dimmed and planets simply ceased to exist. But for the first time since the crisis began, they were facing an enemy that had spent over a year preparing specifically to fight them. The human fleet might be young and small compared to the great alien empires, but they had something their enemies had never encountered before: weapons designed by a species that specialized in finding ways to win impossible battles. "All ships," Captain Jae-sung announced, "engage the enemy. Show them what happens when they threaten humanity's galaxy." The battle for the survival of all organized life in the galaxy was about to begin. The space around the Orion sector twisted and writhed as reality itself seemed to break apart. General Yoon-soo watched from her command station aboard humanity's stand, seeing things that her brain could barely understand. The Devourers were not just large, they existed in dimensions that normal minds couldn't grasp. They looked like massive shadows with too many angles, shifting and changing as they moved through space. "General," her tactical officer called out, his voice tight with fear. "Sensors are having trouble getting accurate readings. The entities are interfering with our instruments just by existing." Yoon-soo studied the displays, trying to make sense of what they were facing. Her 40 years of military experience had never prepared her for anything like this. The enemy wasn't just powerful. They were fundamentally different from anything that existed in normal space. "All ships," she broadcast to the combined fleet. "This is General Yoon-soo. Today we fight not just for our worlds or our people, but for the right of organized matter to continue existing. Human vessels implement Protocol Lighthouse. Alien allies maintain formation and provide covering fire." In the front of the attack formation, Captain Jae-sung's ship New Sol led 12 other human vessels in a spear point toward the largest Devourer. The experimental quantum disruptor arrays on each ship were charging to full power, drawing so much energy that the lights dimmed throughout the vessels. "Weapons Officer Hyun-woo," Jae-sung ordered, trying to keep his voice calm as space warped around them. "Target the dimensional anchor points on the lead entity." "Science Officer HFY, monitor quantum coherence levels. If we lose dimensional stability, we all stop existing." HFY's instruments were screaming warnings as reality became unstable around the Devourers. Captain, quantum foam is breaking down within 50 kilometers of the entities. The basic forces that hold atoms together are failing. Then we'd better hit them before we get that close, Jae-sung replied. All ships, fire quantum disruptors on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. 13 human ships fired simultaneously, their weapons creating beams of light that hurt to look at directly. The quantum disruptor beams struck the lead devourer, and for a moment nothing seemed to happen. Then reality crystallized around the creature, forcing it completely into normal three-dimensional space. For the first time since the war began, a devourer screamed. The sound came through space itself, a noise that made every human and alien crew member feel sick. But more importantly, conventional weapons could now hurt it. All alien vessels, General Yoon-soo commanded, target the fourth-dimensional entity. Fire everything you have. The surviving ships of a dozen civilizations opened fire. Centaurian plasma cannons, Cytherian missile swarms, botanical bioweapons, and reptilian energy beams all struck the devourer at once. The creature, now trapped in normal space, began to dissolve under the concentrated attack. It worked, Navigator Daun shouted with excitement. The quantum disruptors actually worked. But their celebration was short-lived. Where one devourer had been destroyed, 3 more emerged from the dimensional rift. Worse, they seemed to be learning. The second wave of devourers moved differently, trying to avoid the quantum disruptor beams. Captain, HFY reported, her voice filled with worry. The dimensional feedback from the weapons is tearing our ship apart from the inside. Hull integrity is down to 60% and we've only fired 1 volley. Around them, other human ships were reporting similar problems. The quantum disruptor technology was incredibly powerful, but it was also incredibly dangerous to the ships using it. Each shot required enormous amounts of energy and created dimensional stress that could tear a vessel apart. General, the tactical officer reported from the command station, we're losing ships faster than we can replace them. At this rate, the fleet will be combat ineffective in 30 minutes. General Yoon-soo watched the tactical display as blue dots representing human ships began disappearing one by one. Each dot was a ship full of brave men and women who had volunteered to save a galaxy that had once mocked them. But she also noticed something else. The devourers weren't attacking randomly. They were drawn to organized energy patterns, especially complex ones like the power signatures of starships and space stations. All ships, she announced. New tactical assessment. The devourers are attracted to organized energy. The more complex the energy pattern, the more they want to consume it. We're not trying to win this battle. We're trying to buy time for evacuation. Captain Min Kyung, commanding the destroyer Incheon, understood immediately. General, are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? All human vessels, General Yoon-soo said, her voice heavy with the weight of command. Prepare for Operation Final Light. On the bridge of the New Seoul, Captain Jae-sung felt his heart skip a beat. Operation Final Light was humanity's last desperate plan, developed in the deepest secret military facilities on Earth. Every human ship would overload its quantum core simultaneously, creating a cascade reaction that would seal the dimensional rift permanently. The cost would be the entire human space fleet. Captain, Science Officer HFY said quietly, if we implement Final Light, the dimensional collapse will trap both the devourers and us in a pocket of space-time that will cease to exist. I know, Jae-sung replied. He activated his personal communication system and sent a message to his family on Mars. It would be the last time he ever spoke to them. Across the human fleet, similar scenes were playing out. Young officers who had dreamed of exploring the galaxy were preparing to sacrifice everything to save it. Parents said goodbye to children they would never see again. Lovers shared final words across the communication channels, but not one human ship retreated. Not one captain asked to be excused from the operation. They had all known this day might come from the moment they volunteered for service. Admiral So-young, General Yoon-soo called to the fleet commander. All ships report ready for Final Light implementation. Alien vessels have been ordered to retreat to minimum safe distance. Understood, General, Admiral So-young replied from her flagship Terra Eternal. All human personnel, this is your Admiral speaking. Today we write the final chapter of human space exploration, but we do not write it in defeat. We write it in victory over the forces that would destroy all life. On the bridge of the New Seoul, Captain Jae-sung looked around at his young crew. Dayun was checking the navigation systems one last time, making sure their sacrifice would happen in exactly the right place. Hyunwoo was preparing the quantum core overload sequence, his hands steady despite knowing what it would mean. HFY was monitoring dimensional readings, ensuring that their final act would successfully trap the Devourers. Da-un, Jae-sung said softly. Set us for quantum overload. Hyunwoo, target all remaining energy at the rift's core.
HFY, I want to know the exact moment when we start tearing reality apart. Captain, Da-un said,
her voice proud despite her tears. It has been an honor serving with you. The honor was mine, Jae-sung replied. All of you represent the best of humanity. Let's make sure the galaxy remembers what that means. General Yoon-soo's voice came through the fleet communication system one last time. All ships report ready. Quantum cores charged to overload. Dimensional target confirmed. For Earth, for humanity. For the future of all life in the galaxy. 500 human ships arranged themselves in a perfect sphere around the largest concentration of Devourers. Each vessel was now a weapon that would be used only once. Each crew member was a volunteer who had chosen duty over survival. All ships, Admiral So-young announced, her voice calm and proud, initiate final light. The explosion that followed could be seen from neighboring galaxies. Where the human fleet had been, space itself folded inward, creating a permanent scar in reality that trapped the Devourers in a dimensional prison. The entities that had consumed entire civilizations simply stopped existing, locked forever in a pocket of space-time that was cut off from the rest of the universe. In the aftermath, the surviving alien species found themselves alone with the knowledge that the youngest spacefaring race in the galaxy had just saved them all at the cost of everything they had built among the stars. 3 days after the Battle of Orion's sector, the galaxy was silent in a way it had never been before. The constant chatter of interstellar communications, the busy movement of trade ships between worlds, the regular diplomatic messages between species, all of it had stopped. The surviving alien civilizations were trying to understand what had just happened. On the orbital station that had once housed the Galactic Council, the remaining representatives gathered in what was left of their great chamber. High Counselor Vexitar's purple mist was slowly regaining its color, but his voice was quiet and humble when he spoke. The humans are gone, he said simply, all of them. Every ship, every space station, every colony beyond their home system. They sacrificed their entire galactic presence to save us. Sovereign Kethmos, his reptilian form still showing the stress of recent weeks, looked at the tactical displays. Where the human fleet had made their final stand, there was now only empty space marked by strange readings that their instruments couldn't fully understand. Our scientists estimate that the dimensional collapse created a permanent barrier, reported Dr. Nixara, whose plant-like form was slowly recovering from the trauma of the past months. The Devourers are trapped in a pocket of reality that no longer connects to our universe. They cannot escape and they cannot be reached. The chamber filled with the sounds that various alien species made when they were thinking deeply. Clicks from the crystal beings, low hums from the gas creatures, and the rustling of leaves from the plant people. They were all trying to process the same incredible fact. Humanity had won. How many human colonies were cut off when they collapsed the dimensional barriers? Asked Counselor Lethai. All of them, Nixara replied sadly. Mars, Europa, Titan, the asteroid mining stations, the research outposts around Jupiter and Saturn. When they sealed the dimensional rift, they trapped themselves on the other side along with the Devourers. Earth itself is the only human world we can still reach. On Earth, the mood was very different from the somber discussions happening in the Galactic Council chambers. In the Deep Space Command Center, Dr. Hae-jin, now 73 years old, was smiling as she reviewed data that only she and a few other scientists could understand. Director, her assistant Jong-soo said, the alien representatives are requesting another meeting. They want to discuss memorial services and how to honor the sacrifice of our space fleet. Dr. Hae-jin chuckled, a sound that surprised the younger man. Tell them we appreciate their concern, but we're rather busy at the moment. Busy with what? The space program is, well, it's gone, is it? Dr. Hae-jin pulled up a series of classified files on her computer. Jong-soo, what do you think humanity has been doing for the past 3 years? Do you really believe we put all of our resources into one fleet? The young man stared at the files she was showing him. Construction reports from hidden facilities throughout the solar system. production schedules for new types of ships that were even more advanced than the ones that had fought the Devourers, training programs for crews that had been kept secret from the rest of the galaxy. Dr. Hyejin, Jiangsu said slowly, "Are you telling me that we have another fleet?" "3 fleets, actually," she replied. "The one that fought the Devourers was Fleet Alpha, our most experienced crews with our best tested technology. Fleet Beta is already under construction using improved versions of everything we learned from the battle. Fleet Gamma is still in the design phase, but it will incorporate technology that will make our quantum disruptors look like children's toys." Jiangsu sat down heavily in his chair. "But why? Why keep this secret? Why let the galaxy think we sacrificed everything?" Dr. Hyejin's expression became serious. "Because the galaxy needed to learn something important. For thousands of years, they dismissed younger species as primitive and unworthy. They ignored warnings, refused help, and expected others to solve their problems for them. The Devourer crisis taught them what happens when pride replaces wisdom." She brought up another file, this one showing communication logs from the past few days. Messages from alien worlds, all expressing gratitude and respect for humanity's sacrifice. Offers to share technology, requests for guidance on defense planning, and formal apologies for past dismissive treatment. More importantly, Dr. Hyejin continued, it taught us something too. We learned that we don't need their approval or their technology. We are perfectly capable of protecting ourselves and others when necessary. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, construction crews were working on massive shipyards that had been hidden from galactic observation for 2 years. The new ships being built there incorporated everything humanity had learned from fighting an interdimensional enemy. They were faster, stronger, and equipped with weapons that could fight threats the galaxy hadn't even imagined yet. Captain Dongwu, formerly a junior officer on a mining ship, now commanded one of the new construction facilities. His teams worked around the clock, building vessels that would eventually carry human exploration back to the stars. "Captain," his chief engineer So-Jin reported, "the first of the new ships will be ready for testing in 6 months. These vessels are designed for long-range exploration beyond the galactic rim. If there are other threats out there like the Devourers, we'll find them long before they find inhabited space." Meanwhile, on the hidden research station orbiting Neptune, Dr. Sungmin was working on projects that pushed the boundaries of known physics. His quantum manipulation technology had evolved far beyond the weapons used against the Devourers. "The dimensional folding experiments are successful," he reported to Earth Command. "We can now create stable wormholes that bypass normal space entirely. This means we can reach our cutoff colonies and begin re-establishing contact." The message that Dr. Hyejin had been waiting for finally came 3 months later. It was hidden in the quantum signature of a routine stellar observation, encoded in mathematics that only humans would recognize. The message was from Captain Min Kyung, Admiral So-Young's daughter, transmitting from the lost colony on Europa. "Dr. Hyejin, this is Colony 7 reporting. We survived the dimensional collapse and have been working on our own projects. We've made contact with the other cutoff colonies. Mars, Titan, and the outer stations are all intact. We've also discovered something interesting about our new dimensional pocket. We're not alone here, but our new neighbors are friendly." Dr. Hyejin smiled as she decoded the rest of the message. The human colonies that had been trapped by the dimensional collapse had not only survived, but they had discovered an entire region of space filled with other species who had also been hiding from the Devourers for thousands of years. "Jiangsu," she called to her assistant, "send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them that humanity appreciates their concern about our sacrifice, but reports of our extinction have been greatly exaggerated." "Should I tell them about the new fleets? About the colonies?" "Not yet," Dr. Hyejin replied. "Let them rebuild their worlds and their pride. Let them remember what it feels like to be grateful. When they're ready to treat other species as equals instead of subjects, then we'll talk about the future." She looked out the window at Earth, where children played in parks while their parents worked on technologies that would eventually take humanity to places the galaxy had never dreamed of exploring. "Besides," she added with a grin, "humanity has always done its best work when the galaxy thinks we're not a threat. The Devourers learned what happens when you underestimate us. Perhaps it's time for the rest of the galaxy to learn that lesson too." In the deep archives of Earth's government, a new file was created and classified at the highest level. It contained a simple message that would guide human policy for generations to come. The galaxy dismissed our warnings and mocked our fears. When the threat came, we saved them all at great cost. But we are still here. We are still watching, and we are still preparing. The next time someone threatens our galaxy, they won't face a desperate sacrifice. They'll face a humanity that's ready for anything. The stars themselves seem to shine a little brighter, as if they knew that somewhere in the darkness, humanity was building ships and training crews for challenges that had not yet been imagined. The galaxy was safe, but it was not yet ready for the next chapter in the human story.